Our next basic service to be presented is terminology services. The stage is yours. Thank you.
Hello, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining today, also to the Roadshow. So I'm also on the road. At the moment, I'm in Leipzig at the NFDI for Microbiota annual conference. But nevertheless, let us focus now to our service. And first of all, a lot of people may be interested also, why are terminologies important? And since we're on the road, I will also do a survey here. Could anyone tell me what do you see here on the screen? That would be interesting from my side. Feel free to answer it directly. It is also possible to write it down in the chat. So someone is entering Jupiter and another one is entering Venus. That's great. So it's correct. It's Venus in this case. And what do you see here? A bowling ball. Maybe that was the old one as well. Let us continue. That is again the Venus, but I could also say that is the morning star. But I could say on the other hand side, that would be the evening star. And why could I do that? So when we go back in history, I could say it depends on the knowledge we have. Since if a person in the medieval didn't know that Venus and morning star and evening star is more or less the same planet. So they have different terms for the same concept, I would say. But let us go now also to let us waste the sun, so we are on day again. But I could also say here also some German speakers, maybe that is the Sonne. Or to confuse you a little bit more, I could also say maybe this is also a morning star. And could I now say I have multiple morning stars here as well? Or let us do another example. So we have a museum on the left-hand side, and the museum has there a bowl. And they know this is a Terra Sigillata bowl. But there could be another museum which doesn't have the expertise, and they would say there's a museum, they also have the same bowl or the same type of bowl, and they would say that is a bowl without name. We all know that from different exhibitions we visit. So, and it depends again on the different curators and perspectives the curators have. So what we could now see is that it depends on the perspective. So we have same objects or items which could have different labels, but we also have different objects or items which could have the same label. And a solution to resolve this issue is shown here. And all of you probably know that at the moment we are on a digital way, but there's already something like an ISBN. And to make that a little bit more generic, we could say an ISBN is also a standardized identifier. And that is more or less the idea and the reason why terminologies are important. And how is that related to TS4NFDI? So we have terminology in our name, and we could do the same also with web applications, for example. That is one issue we want to solve with this basic service TS4NFDI or terminology service for NFDI. Let us assume we have a web service here with different data. It could be an annotation service like an ELN. It could be a search engine. It could be a data repository. Let us say we put TS4NFDI in the middle, and what TS4NFDI is offering is a terminology service suite with different smaller widgets which are focused on a search, an autocomplete, a hierarchy, and such other stuff. So there are multiple ones of them. And what we could do, we could use this widget like Lego bricks and bring it to your application. That means from your original application, we could add their fair metadata as well. So we can enrich your application with semantic data. That is the one use case we have. I will also show some examples in a minute about it, but we have another use case there. I will focus afterwards. So that is the technical overview on the right-hand side. You see here on the blue border or the inside of the blue border, there's the terminology service suite, which is inside of our architecture. Next to that, that is our second use case. What we also want to solve is, let's assume we have, again, an application here. It could be another application than the first one we saw. But this application wants to access data from 3 different terminology service. And that could be different software stacks like OLS, which stands for Ontology Lookup Service, for the Onto Portal, or for Cosmos. So that means you have multiple APIs you must to send a request to get data back. So let do us the work. So TS4NFDI will do that on a central place. We will harmonize this API And if you already had implemented one of these terminology service types in your application, you could use also the other one as well, since we will map them together. That is also possible for you to do. You also spot that again in the figure here of our architecture, that we have the central API gateway. This gateway is already there as a prototype. It's reachable on GitHub. I could share the link afterwards as well. It's also linked here if you want to see how this is working. And what we could say is we already have here 829 different resources we could access to. So now I explained a little bit what is the idea behind TS4NFDI and why terminologies are important. Now I could also show you some usage of our basic service, since we already have one. So let us focus back to our first use case, or first issue we're trying to solve, the direct integration of terminologies to web services through widgets. And I will focus first on the semantic search. And with semantic search, we have here an application. You could also have a look into that one afterwards, and also raise questions about preview. In short, it's a preprint view of COVID-related articles. The interesting part, again, is here in the middle of the site. I marked it here again in blue. When you click there, you will get an autocomplete functionality. And this autocomplete functionality is directly imported from the terminology service suite. How does this terminology service suite look like? It looks like that. So first of all, you will have a description and also a documentation about that. And you see on the left-hand side as well a menu for React components and also for HTML or JavaScript components, where you see different stories, which is more or less the documentation of these widgets. So another example we see here on preview is when you see this highlighted text here in yellow and gray, for example. There are other colors as well on the right-hand side. And when I click on one of them, what you see here is that you get another widget, which is in this case, this metadata widget. And it is the same widget you also could spot. Now I clicked here on the left-hand side on the metadata widget, and I entered the same data as well here, which is directly integrated to preview. Another thing or use case we have then are data annotation services. And I have here as an example the metadata annotation workbench, and you could spot already on the bottom again the metadata annotation, the metadata widget, and also of the other hand side you also see the autocomplete widget again. So this is a direct integration of the widgets to other web applications, and that is content independently. You will see that now in the third example I have here for the user experience enhancement. I used here CABI in this case. CABI is a database for chemical substances. You see here the point 3, again in the blue border. When I click on this one, I get this chemical entity here. And when I open it up, when I click on this point, you will see that the hierarchy or the tree is growing. And again, the same tree you could also find in the terminology service suite. In this case, I clicked on HTML, so it's also possible to use that via React, and I clicked on hierarchy and add here the different information I need to show the same picture. The terminology service suite is already accessible via this link here, or also via this QR code, so feel free also to use it. We are totally interested in getting feedback. Also, if you have some issues or wishes, what you need, feel free to submit that also on GitHub as well. That is more or less the product of our initialization phase. We will join the integration phase by the beginning of the next year, and we will integrate their mapping service, which means when we have a look back to our architecture, we see the mapping service here, and the mapping service will provide an NFDI-wide mapping service with SESM support, which is a standard format for mappings of ontology mappings. We will also focus on, in addition, on terminology curation workflows. That means I showed you a lot of examples how to deliver existing terminologies to other services. Maybe there's something missing. And for that, we have this terminology curation workflows that you directly could add some additional information to terminologies as well. And what we also have, and that is the most interesting part also here, is the community engagement and training material. You already saw IAM, this incubator dashboard. We will do the same, and our incubator projects will start in Q1 2025. And you are very happy, luckily, or whatever we want to call it, to contact us. You could do that on the last slide. I will show that. Here's also the question: how many words for Venus were used in this presentation? Were it 2, 3, or 4 to find the right solution for your quiz at all? And that is all from my side. I would say thank you. And I'm very happy to get some questions. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, thank you, Roma. Thank you, team Terminology Services. We close the recording now.